really would like you to share the story. I think it's such an interesting short story, the spider bite story. So maybe you could just tell the story of that, how that came about and how that changed your perspective on risk.
Yeah, well, so back in 2015, I was at a golf tournament up at Lake Tahoe with all my dear friends. It was a serious golf tournament, lots of money on the line. And we were in day two of the tournament. And my partner, it was a two-man format, and we were second place. We were doing really well. And I go and I take a putt. I remember putting the ball. And next thing I know, I have a paramedic next to me, every guy in the golf tournament's around me. And as it turns out, I had had a massive grand mal seizure and had been unresponsive for a half an hour. Just like probably most people thought I died. Certainly not going to be neurologically intact. Really scary. And the spider bite comes is that we go to the hospital. The best they could explain is that I had a spider bite, likely a black widow, uh, on my like ankle area, but right above the sock. Uh, I never felt that. It's not something that I remember, but that was the best they could do. Who knows if that's really what happened? It could have been a combination of I was drinking energy drinks, spider bite, a little dehydrated, and next thing you know, you're having a seizure. And nobody could give me a good explanation. The best one was the spider. I like that one the most. It makes me feel better about the randomness of what happened. Uh,
Yeah.
but it was an interesting moment in my life because I became completely dependent on other people for about 6 months because I wasn't allowed to drive. I had nearly died. It's really scary because when I'm laying on the ground, I don't know what happened. I have no
How old were
perception.
you then?
I was 38. It's 8 years ago. Almost 8 years exactly to the day. So I basically I'm laying on the ground and the paramedic is looking at me. I've got oxygen in my nose and I'm trying to pull it out. They're like, leave it in, and I'm like, look, I'm gonna go finish the round, okay? I knew that I was golfing. I had the perception that I was there to golf and I was good. And then the question is, listen, if you can answer three questions, you can finish your round. I'm like, great, shoot. I'm perceiving the question. I know what he's talking about. What year is it? It wasn't that I got the wrong year, it's that I didn't know the answer was a number. There
Wow.
was there was no recall. It didn't exist. It was the scariest thing in the world. And when that happened, I'm looking, and my best friend is crying. And you're sitting there going, "What?" I just you're just not your brain's not working right, right? My brain did a very hard reset at that moment, a very hard reset, and uh, that resulted in a lot of self reflection, right? About what I was doing as a parent, as a husband, as an attorney. As of July, this happened in July of 15. I had not had an eight-figure verdict, and I had set some goals for myself, right? I had goals that in my career it was important for me for whatever the reason was. I don't really know how I came up with these, to be honest with you, but I wanted to get three eight-figure verdicts and a nine-figure verdict. And I said, if I when I accomplish that, I'm done. I'm gonna walk away because I figured that would be a career's worth of verdicts. Because I didn't know very many people that had done that ever.
Hmm.
And so I thought those were lofty goals. And after that seizure, I just wasn't scared. I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? Lose a trial? I almost lost my life. Like, I'm not going to die from losing a trial, right? I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And so I started doing them. And I had done trials before, obviously, but on the bigger ones where there was risk, I'd either bring somebody in or I'd settle it. And it was that repeated pattern. And then finally, after the seizure, I'm like, I'm good enough to do this myself. And I did have this weird result after the seizure is that my memory was just better, right? My recall was better. And
That's
so
incredible.
when I,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
so when I focus on a trial now, my ability to recall exhibit numbers and what's in that exhibit, where it's at, is weird. It also is weird is as soon as the trial's over, if you were to ask me about that exhibit, I will have no recollection of what you're talking about. I will have moved on to
Interesting.
something else.